passion, drive, persistence, resilience, love. All qualities that shape and define us. Join the Cyber Warrior as he helps shape your path. This is Walk With Me.
Welcome back to Walk With Me, a Cyber Warrior Studios production. I'm your host on this journey, the Cyber Warrior. Now, with this being the very last week of Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, I felt it very important that I bring men onto this show that are dealing with a lot of different issues and have advice for other men that are out there. Now, let me preface this by saying that this could become a very emotional, very triggering, and even some explicatives thrown about. Understand, this is how we are dealing, this is how we are coping, and this is how situations get resolved and sometimes dealt with in our lives. So nothing we say here is meant to offend anybody. It is truly just us trying to sort through the issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So without further ado, I hope you join me in welcoming many of the men that I've been looking up to for the past little while that have helped me, I've talked to on a regular basis. We have Savage, David, Tiger Balm, and Liam. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining me this evening. And of course, Tiger has to come in the comedy because that's how we cope for a lot of things. But I also had Dysfunctional. He'll be joining us a little bit later, and so he'll be here. Otherwise, look, gentlemen, thank you for joining me this evening. This is a very important topic and something I hope that we can take beyond a month and something we can talk about more. As people have noticed, my TikTok account has actually kind of gone that route of pushing more of the motivation and mental health awareness going forward. Saying that, so yeah, Dysfunctional, I just wanted to ask, I mean, I know me and you have had a lot of conversations over, all of us have had conversations over the course of time we've known each other. And I know me and you talked about it recently about kind of being in autopilot mode. And when you're dealing with things like men's mental health and just mental health in general, I think that is a feeling that we can all recognize. So with that, would you kind of like to give kind of a little bit of backstory on how that's affecting you and kind of where you're at in that situation? And if there's any advice or any questions you have for anybody on kind of how to deal with it.
So it kind of hit me yesterday. Last night, I was trying to do my job, and normally I'm very happy. I'm very uplifting. I'm trying to cheer everybody up. I couldn't. I wasn't happy about anything. And it hit me. I haven't been happy, like emotionally, truly happy for some time. And I thought about it, and I was on autopilot. I was just going through the motions. I was doing my job. I was smiling at the jokes. I was laughing at the jokes. I smiled when my kids did something, but I didn't feel anything. And that's it. And I tried to figure out how long it's been like that, and I don't know. So after I got home from work last night, and I had a very brief conversation in the channel, I talked to my wife about it. And she asked me, if it was something to do with her, which is her go-to, and it really wasn't. But I don't know where else I can go to besides, guys who've been through it. And it was just odd. I felt completely and totally off. Like all of my emotions had been turned off.
Yeah, that's definitely a hard situation to be in. I know I've been there. I was talking about it before we started recording. My wife doesn't always pick up on it right away, but there are definitely signs where she sees it. She knows something's off and something's wrong. But again, it's not always stated, right? Sometimes we just come out of these things. But I don't know, as far as, Liam, Tiger, or David, what would you say is kind of the key factor on trying to deal with these situations that I know we've all been in?
I'm definitely not the best one to try to state what would be the best way to deal with it, because like Viking was just saying, I go through the same thing oftentimes, and it's to the point where you don't notice it's happening until you catch the way you're responding to like your loved ones. So you can, my kids, for example, they'll be really interested and want to show me something. Hey, Daddy, look at this, look at this, and I either got to like fake it because I have just a general lack of interest. Like even though those are babies, like nothing fucking matters at that moment. You know what I mean? And like, you don't realize you're doing it. If somebody else observes it, like your staff maybe, and they mention it, of course, our go-to reaction is like, no, I'm fine. You know, nothing's wrong. Like my wife does the same thing, like you guys were saying. They'll tell me, hey, babe, what's wrong with you? You know, you need to go out to the woods. And I'm like, no, there's always another day. He's doing a podcast, you know? So like you kind of come off. And I think getting an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with other guys that have experienced that, because we do this a lot, or at least I know I do for sure. Mm-hmm. You mix that and then some form of an outlet. Like we've all got to have something that is the way that we can go out and just like let shit out, whether it's, you know, beating up a tree or going out and screaming into the sky or something, you know, something that's not bad for our health and us. And work through it that way. Maybe it's a reoccurring thing, you know, and it's really hard to get away from that. Like this said, we don't usually notice it. It's been happening for a while.
Yeah.
Can I jump off that talking point, Liam?
Yeah. Go ahead, Tiger.
Okay. I am nothing but outlets. That's how I deal with it, is to make sure I don't end up there, whether that be through, like you said, getting it out. I do have a heavy bag for when it's really bad, or just for general practice. But, you know, fitness on a daily basis is kind of my meditation. And I think whether it be working on a hobby, a slight amount, like don't let it ruin your family life, you know, an hour or two a day, you know, just something that's yours that helps get you in that habit of normalcy, you know, not where it's going to bring anxiety to your relationships. But I'm nothing but outlets, whether it be fitness, cooking. That's another way I stay pretty grounded, because I know mental health and happiness comes from diet as well, not just from taking joy of eating or eating in quantities as a coping mechanism, but more of keeping this drag race car that we have as a body going, because your brain is connected to that. So if you're going to keep your body at a certain level, you also take your mind in consideration. But thirdly, are you guys familiar with the helper's high?
I've not heard of it, but I have a feeling I'm going to agree with you in a quick second, because it's probably something I do on a regular basis.
Okay, so with fitness, they use this at the VA a lot, and that's kind of what got me down that road. Because I got pretty depressed when the VA told me I wouldn't walk again. I was spending a lot of time there, but they had these infographics about fitness and some of the chemicals that your brain produces while you do that actually helps combat depression. I quickly found out when I got more mobile that the helper's high is kind of the opposite, but in still a good way, chemical reaction in the brain. One is serotonin, and I believe another is like dopamine. I think I could be wrong on that, but it's another brain chemical that happens when you help others. What you guys are witnessing on TikTok with me fundraising is the helper's high. If I'm helping a charity, it's kind of the same thing as when I take the kids and we go do you know, an hour or two down at the soup kitchen. It kind of helps with their autism, and you're literally seeing me fight my own demons by helping others. And that's part of why I do that, because that's what's kept me out of seeing shrinks or needing medication from the VA and things like that. So I've just found a way to weave it all together into a normal life. It is a little counterproductive sometimes when it comes to relationships, but I've made it a priority in my life. Just like your mental health should be a priority. If you recognize it's there, it's something that should be addressed.
I get up before the kids get up, so they don't even know that I'm taking an hour of their time, as I put it. And I love cooking for them because I am helping my children when I do cook. If I'm doing a tractor pull or training for it, it actually helps two different aspects, because if I'm not motivated to go work out, well, I want that helper's high and I'm committed to that charity. Now I have to. So I've kind of trapped myself in this weird treatment program of my own design.
Yeah. And
the comedy's coping.
Well, the comedy is coping for, I think, a lot of us. We all, or at least the majority of us, and we're going to have others jumping in and out as we go through this podcast. You know, a lot of us are veterans. And so that comedy and that dark humor and just
it's an infantry thing.
Necessarily, you know, agree with, but it's how we cope with things. It's you know, you go through years of mental strain and anguish, and that's just how you learn to not get down in one of those deep, dark holes. But I don't disagree with you on the helper side, because, you know, even in talking to, because I talk to doctors, I talk to a doctor on a regular basis. And one of the things that I felt helped me was creating my content. And it was because everything I was doing was about helping others. It wasn't for like something I want or something I need. It was all about helping others. And so when I quit doing that, because I was in that depressive state, because I got burnout, I had so many other issues going on, you know, at home and things like that, that really dragged me down. But the moment I started creating more, the moment I started going out and doing more motivational videos again, and, you know, really trying to improve, all it took was one message of, dude, this spoke to me. And then that right there clicked. And that is when I was like, okay, this means something. I'm doing something right. And, you know, that kind of brought me out of my funk of being depressed and being in that situation. And my doctors have agreed. They're like, every time I talk to them, they're like, are you creating? Are you helping others? Like, are you doing what you know you need to do? And when I say no, they're like, okay, then after this call, go. Because it's not the pills that I need. It's not, oh, I need to do all this. There are different avenues of affecting your mental well-being that do not require medications. You just have to know how to trigger those. Now, some of them do require medication. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to knock the people that require it. I'm just saying there are ways that you can curb the issues without needing medication sometimes.
Yes, but let's also recognize that when you're creating content, that's no different than crafting pottery or something. It is a creative outlet.
Right. And that's for me is the creativity on top of the reasoning behind it.
Unless some negativity gets in there.
Every once in a while. It does. I try to keep it away, but it does tend to. We see it. Tiger.
Hey, you haven't seen my comment section.
Not. Savage, why don't you give a little bit of an introduction about yourself and why this topic is so important to you?
My name's Jason. I go by the handle Savage online for my social media. CEO Savage Media. I'm a recovering addict. I've been battling mental health issues, been battling depression, anxiety, addiction for at least a decade. More than that, even. I mean, my whole life. But you know, it all culminated in after a motorcycle accident, and a doctor wrote me a script, and that script became my best friend. And you know, after nuclear bombing a life that I built with my ex-wife, I went down a very dark road, and she left me with, you know, I don't blame her. And for, you know, the way I was acting was absolute insanity. And I've been in and out of recovery, in and out of 12-step rooms for the last 7 years. Currently have going on 8-9 months sober. I don't really count the days anymore. You know, 10, 22, 22. And, you know, some of the gentlemen in this room have saved my life. Helped me through some things.
Yeah, definitely, and that's very important. It's something that a lot of people don't recognize is that the when your mental health struggles and you find these addictions, you find these coping mechanisms that aren't always healthy. You become addicted and you go down dark paths, and it takes you deeper and deeper into the hole that you don't see a way out of until finally you hit rock bottom. And everybody's rock bottom is different, and some people honestly don't have a way out. It becomes too late, as we know. So thank you for sharing that story. David, how about you?
My name's David. On my social media, it's either Remus1972 or my most recent backup account is Heathen Burgundy, doing my attempt at comedy. I'm no Tiger Balm, but I'm trying.
Hey, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I did 20 years in the Marine Corps, and through that time, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I was, some kind of special forces operator, super duper guy out there doing it. But I saw some things, couple of tours in Iraq, did a year in Afghanistan as a civilian contractor. And probably the hardest thing for me is, I grew up, I lost my dad at a really young age, grew up with a stepdad that really, me and my sister weren't a priority like his two sons were. And, a lot of things that my mom didn't know about went down, and lost my mom 4 years ago to cancer, and it spiraled me into a pretty bad state of depression, medical anxiety.
I think he just lost his breaker again.
Yeah, it looks like it froze up.
That's fine. So yeah, while we're waiting for him to get back on, and he'll probably drop out here. Liam, what about you, man?
Why it's important? I'm an addict. I've been straight off of my drug of choice since 2008. I've dealt with all kinds of from stigmas that were taught growing up, things that kids, which help people. They deal with it. Recently, the reason I got more concerned about it is because I got even new issues that have popped up probably in the last couple of months that are really taking like there's been a few times where I shit you guys not, and I don't even tell other people this too. Like, if I wasn't too chicken shit to have off myself, I probably would have a few times over the last few months, just because of the shit that's changing between having kids, like an ex that doesn't let me see them, just life's drama, and we're supposed to shut the fuck up and be a man and fucking, just dark shit. So it's really important to me, because I don't want people to go through like what I go through and not be able to feel like they can talk to people about it, because I can see how fast that can spiral and put us in a place where we become a statistic really quick. And if I can do it, help anybody away from that, or even help them out by putting a smile on their face by being a dumbass and telling them to hug a tree, or like Tiger was talking about with the helping. I guess I kind of did that too, because it was really like a good way to find it. Like, it help somebody and put a smile on their face. If I'm feeling like shit, I can do something for somebody that maybe they can't do for themselves. And then now I feel a little bit better about myself because I just helped somebody else out, whether it's giving them a book, or we have a 10-minute phone call because we're stuck on our feelings and shit like that. Like that. And I don't want a lot of you guys, a lot of you guys are my good friends. Some of us have known each other a couple of years, some of us a year, a couple months. And I don't want to lose none of you guys, man. We don't need to be a stat. And I think more guys need to be able to openly speak about their shit, at least even in like smaller groups with people you can trust, because the world again stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that's very important to understand, is that a lot of us go through this situation, but all the stories are different and all the reasonings are different, but you still end up in those mindsets, and that be a man mindset. I think all of us here are old enough to have been raised in that mindset of suck it up, be a man, deal with it, shove it down. You don't have emotions, you don't have feelings. And if you do, don't show anybody, because it shows weakness. And that is one of the things that me and my wife we still deal with today with me. I still do that with her of, I don't want to tell you how I feel, because I know you may think I'm weak, or the kids will think I'm weak, or this, at the third. And so it's not a situation I want to be in, even though she's there for me, even though she's like, no, that's not the case. You still have these things. So I'm lucky, but at the same time, it's how I was raised. So it's still things I do. Tiger, what about you, man?
Well, let's see. Single father of 3, been divorced about 2 years, been raising them full time on my own. Got a lot of weight on my shoulders. Best thing I ever did was involuntarily cut toxic things from my life. But I was already in the habit with some healthy coping mechanisms. I picked up a little bit of a drinking problem when I got out of the 82nd Airborne. But luckily, after being in some dark places for several different reasons, I found fitness and helping people. And what I quickly came to realize, and it might be a little bit of an opposite to some of the testimonials given prior to me, I prioritize it in a non-narcissistic way, myself and my needs, so that I can provide and deal with that weight a lot of men do. I don't have anybody else. So if I have a sick day, it's like we're losing 2 incomes. If somebody gets sent home from school and I got to go pick them up and take the day off, that's why I'm not with the Bricklayers Union anymore. Both my boys are autistic. I can't blow up at them. So I need to make sure that this sports car that we've been given doesn't have sugar in the gas tank before I even leave to go get the kids, as it were. So I have to recognize my problems and deal with them. And a lot of times it's from making sure they're taken care of, taking pride in that. At the same time, helping other people and taking care of my needs. There is always a bit of conflict with that, whether it be, my girlfriend going on 2 years, bills, work. Lord knows if I could put in the time I used to when I was married. But it's all kind of put my life, whether it be the sobriety and fighting that old coping mechanism always ever present in the back of our head, saying, what's one drink? It'll help you take the edge off at the end of the day. Nah, I'm going to go fold laundry. Then there's outlets like comedy and stuff like that. Maybe, and you might think I'm crazy for saying this because you guys know how the moderators are and the guidelines on TikTok and things like that. That actually keeps me from going in really dark places. I might get frustrated behind the scenes going, no, I can't say that. But at the same time, when the finished product comes out, and maybe I'll get a message or two that week about how someone else didn't unalive themselves. It reminds me when I get those thoughts and things like that maybe I should tell those voices that I still get from the infantry to, shut the fuck up and let's write up a meal plan for the kids this week. When it comes to mental health, it's something that we all fight. I try to be proactive with it and not reactive, because I find that when I have moments of weakness, if I'm coming from a higher ground, as it were, like Obi-Wan, it's easier to recognize and change my course of action. If I find myself constantly getting stacked on by anxieties and societal pressures and whatnot, it's hard to keep that high ground, but it can be done. Other than that, I don't know. I'm a meat popsicle.
Aren't we all? and you're not wrong, though, but you
only
address
time you can
that.
throw in a Star Wars reference to men's mental health.
You got to throw that in there. But
I am a pipe hitting power nerd, and anime is an outlet. Nerdery is an outlet.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you had any idea.
Yep. And
Absolutely.
but what you said there was very valid in that I've always considered myself being able to deal with anything. So I became very reactionary because I didn't have those issues growing up that a lot of others have dealt with. I will always admit to being very lucky in my life in the situations that I came up in, even being made fun of and bullied and things like that. I just had thick skin and let it roll off and never let that type of stuff bother me. It's just not who I was. But that doesn't change the fact that, you know, after a while, when you start seeing negativity, when you start feeling these things and start dealing with these situations, it all eventually gets to you. And for me, it didn't happen until I was in my mid to late 20s, even in my 30s, that all of a sudden everything built up at once. And then it was just downhill from there. Between the military, being away from family, not having the support system you thought you had, friends turning their back on you, all this other stuff finally just hit. And I was just like, I'm done. What's the point? Why do all this? And so once I dug myself back out, I won't lie, Tiger, I still fall into some of those reactionary instead of proactive methods of dealing with it. It's very reactionary. And so I definitely understand where you're coming from on that, on putting yourself first. It's just the way I was raised makes it difficult.
Well, one of the other things I've learned is who real friends are and how to identify that. And having no qualms with basically telling someone, okay, fine, bye. You know, fuck them. If they want me to prioritize, like, let's say my kids, they're my priority. If this to all my clients, they come first. Your project will get done. You know, or like a friend of mine had a wake yesterday. That's why I wasn't on as much yesterday. And I quickly realized with hindsight who in the last 2 years has been a good friend and who's been a quiet friend and who's been a POS friend. So I think we're better off with less relationships that aren't bad ones.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
That's
moving forward, Rooster, and I see David trying to come in. His internet's being real wonky right now, but Rooster, you're here, man. Give us what's the importance of mental health and kind of what it means to you, especially moving forward and trying to escape this once a year mindset.
You want me to go full send, brother? Because I can do it.
Dude,
Full send.
So, first off, I'm a DV survivor, an SA survivor. I've also got alcoholism tendencies. I've been dealing with the men's mental health issues for quite a while now. It kind of helps me cope with my own issues by helping other people. Do I always have the right answer? Do I always have the best answer? Again, no. But 9 times out of 10, for a lot of men, it's just being heard. Not so much of receiving a direct answer, but having the outlet to finally say what they've been needing to say for so long. You know, I racked my brain for a long time trying to figure out where I wanted to take my TikTok, how I wanted to do it. Now, sure, I jumped on the UPG train and done the Hamaval readout like so many others have done. Absolutely.
I really like those, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, they're great. It's just everybody's doing them. But
they need the reminders. You know how the algorithm is.
Well, I mean, but the one thing I haven't seen a lot of is a whole lot of people giving, ground to men's mental health and what it means to not just, the individual man, but society as a whole, or even to be closer, that individual's family. We as men, we undergo so much on a daily basis. Some people call them demons, some people call them, internal monsters, what have you. Everybody says, oh, you got to kick your alcoholism. You got to beat that demon. Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't beat him. I made peace with it. I fight a fight specifically because I can. Fight with alcoholism is, for the most part, is genetic. My father was an alcoholic. His father before him, my uncles, all alcoholics. So instead
that was your coping mechanism then.
Yeah, I mean, I purposely feed that demon and allow him to stay because it helps me gauge my tolerance, my resilience. It reminds me I'm not dead yet. Like there's still something inside of me still alive. Because to be honest with you, a lot of people talk about, contemplating suicide. Well, let me go ahead and tell you something. Contemplate it all you want. You want to talk about how you feel like a real failure? I've lost count how many times I've tried to unalive myself. Well, the most recent one, I tried to chew a damn bullet. So that's 2 attempts with a firearm. My guns don't jam. They don't not fire. You grab one of mine, pull the trigger, it detonates every time. Guaranteed. But
yeah, man, but they don't come in sugar free.
Exactly.
There's no diet.
Well, I had gotten to that point where I was tired. Liam, Cyber, y'all two guys saw a huge part of that. And, believe it or not, Cyber actually saved my life one night.
No kidding.
Yeah, I hadn't eaten in days. I'm homeless to boot, just in case y'all are wondering. I look pretty good for a
right
homeless
now,
guy, right? Yeah, I'm homeless.
Right now.
I do not have a home. I do not have a fixed location. I actually sleep in my girlfriend's front yard.
What do you need to get you by right now?
Right now, I'm good. I've got the gods and the stars above me. I've got a good job finally that's, keeping food in my stomach. And even though it's
like socks, socks and stuff.
No, I'm honestly good there. Like I said, it's
have them all too, man.
From
have them all too and message me after this.
Well, from now compared to even 2 months ago, it's a total polar opposite. 2 months ago, I wasn't eating. I was very rarely sleeping. I was averaging 2, maybe 3 hours a night. And it was terrible. It was bad. And,
I'm sorry you're having those circumstances in your life right now, but can I make a point with your situation?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Everybody has hardships. Yours is pretty bad. And sometimes people just need a smile. But at the same time, do you know what men don't get a lot of? One of the first things I experienced after my divorce was this thing called a compliment. And I would like to tell the whole room, those are some really nice beards, looking beardly, my guys. A little jealous. Mustaches included, Remus.
I try to make it freaking weird when complimenting people.
Right? Isn't that weird about men? Men don't do that.
Yeah, we're trying to make them more comfortable.
Beard's looking sexy, my guy. I wish I was as tall as you.
Absolutely.
And that's
no, my girlfriend compliments me, and I still can't handle it very well. I get all quiet. But inside, a little furnace starts up, and I'm just like, oh.
What is this?
Listen,
Well, you know,
when I get,
I covered that one of my
You got it.
videos.
Go ahead.
My point is, you got that beard, and I don't. Mine doesn't even connect very well. So, got beard envy. What can I say?
I covered a lot of that in one of my videos, believe it or not. I do believe I touched on, because right now I'm working on a series talking about each individual mindset that most men, show. I think last night I covered resting dick face, which is, the polar opposite of resting bitch face. It's the male version of it.
listen, I grew up in the Bronx during the crack epidemic. I have resting, I'll crack your skull in with a baseball bat face.
I thought that was average everyday New Yorker face.
But the first video on the series was the class clown, the clown in the room. And I see a lot of that with a lot of our group. There's a lot of the clown in the room, the ones that are quick to post jokes, and a lot of people don't realize that's just a defense mechanism that we use for coping.
Modern Floki and I will message each other and say, "Hey, was that joke you told like just to be funny, or was that a trauma response?" We ask that a lot.
A little of both. I use humor as a coping mechanism because for years I used drugs and alcohol as a coping mechanism. So when I need one of the things I've heard a few people, I'll just chime in with this. I've heard a few people say about the addiction and everything like that. I got to make one thing clear, and this is on me. Drugs and alcohol are not my problem. I'm my fucking problem. And when I focus on myself, I focus on the problem. So, some of the things that I need to do, drugs and alcohol are my answer. They're my solution to every issue that I have, every emotion, every struggle, everything I'm going through, because I don't want to deal with my own shit. So now that I've learned, and that's no longer in my wheelhouse as a solution to my problem, now humor's the next best thing. I started doing drugs and alcohol because they were fun and they were funny and I laughed my ass off. Then I started getting mean. Then I started getting devious. Then I started getting deceptive and I started doing all these things that I'm not proud of. Now
your health went down.
Right. My mental health specifically. There was a time, we talked about unaliving. One of my darkest moments was right after my mom passed from COVID in August 2020, September 2020. I was on the middle of a tab. I was living in an apartment on the river, in the Delaware River in Bristol, Pennsylvania. And I was getting, $1,200 a week in stimulus money. Plus, I'm working a few nights off, under the table. Let's just say I'm working a few nights as a bartender, right?
Edit that out.
IRS, this is for educational purposes only, hypothetical.
Educational purposes only. I'm learning.
All right, there's no actual federal IRS law.
So if you're in another state, I do not consent for you to take me. So there's I'm literally making doctor money at this point. And I put my dealer's kid through college. I say it all the time. And there was a point where after my mom passed, and my mom was always my best friend, my biggest cheerleader, that I played spin the bottle with a glass stem with crack cocaine in it. And I'm honest about what I did. And a loaded pew-pew. And I took a bottle of vodka and I spun it. And one of those things was going in my mouth. It's probably the only time that I'm very grateful that I actually smoked crack.
Dude, so many people picked up a bottle during the pandemic. It's ridiculous. The whole world was coping.
There was an 80% increase in relapses. I had a year and a half at the time when COVID hit. I was really good at my sobriety. And then it took 2 years for me to get back on track.
Yeah, and that's
my wife picked up a bottle and it made things weird.
A lot of people don't understand, especially now, is COVID did a lot of damage to a lot of people. A lot of people relapsed. A lot of issues occurred. And then at least here in PA, Savage, as you know, they closed down or tried to close down liquor stores and your state
they
stores.
Did for like the first 3 weeks, and then so many people were going into
and they went into withdrawal, and it actually loaded the hospitals up even more than COVID did, because you now had all these alcoholics that were going through withdrawal and had to be sent to the hospital. But again,
or going on to other things.
Yeah.
No, but here's the thing: like all the mind altering substances and all substances you can put in your body, the most dangerous one to withdraw from is alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol and benzoprine. So like things like Xanax and things like that. Just for educational purposes only. For things like that, you can go. You have seizures. You can pass. You can unalive through the withdrawal from that.
Yeah.
So like now here's like where people's mental health and where alcoholism and substance abuse disorder came into such an impactful, forefront is the fact that they shut down liquor stores for 3 weeks. And because it was overrunning the hospitals with people coming in from seizures and from almost passing, that they had to get the liquor industry up and running as, what were they called it? What were the people that couldn't stop working? What were they called?
Essential workers.
Essential workers. So liquor store operators and spirit distributors and stills became essential workers during the pandemic. That'll give you an idea of how large this unspoken, monster that's on people's backs is.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. We were driving to Ohio. There came a moment because a lot of Pennsylvanians went to Ohio and West Virginia when that shit happened.
Jersey.
Yeah, we were going over there, dude. I got to Ohio would tell us if they seen our Pennsylvania license, they were like, we can't sell to you guys anymore. Because it was just so many people pouring into the state and buying up everything over there.
Yeah, but again, this comes down to and Remus, now that you're back on, I want to kind of get hear from you as well. But this comes down to our coping mechanisms and what's healthy and unhealthy. And like Rooster said, kind of the demon, and you feed little by little just to keep them quiet enough to, be satiated.
Oh, I'll tell you what.
Y'all know what I'm talking about.
I'll tell you what. Conversely, from that time, my ex-wife picked up, she would drink socially, but she got really bad during the pandemic. It's how she coped. And my demons were, and she was constantly trying to get me to do it too. And, and that was a fight not to.
Yeah. And
it formed a big old wedge.
And again, it's the demons you want to feed versus the ones you don't, because we're all going to have those demons. There's no locking them up permanently. There's no killing them off. There's the ones that you can make tiny because of the way you fight them and you're able to make them smaller. And then the ones that you just have to keep sated enough that they stay in their cage. They don't yell and scream as loudly anymore. But the voices are still going to come back.
Yeah,
and so these coping mechanisms that we face, whether it's jokes or alcohol or drugs or helping others, if you're choosing the healthy ways where, it's okay to drink every once in a while for some people. But Savage, kind of like how you said, where your problem was you, I know I get addicted to things. I have an addictive personality. I have to keep myself in check.
I'm allergic to alcohol. I break out in spots all over the place, like crack spots, all over New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, all over the place.
I had a buddy that would break out in handcuffs. That was his, he was allergic to break out in cuffs. But for me, I know my family, like Rooster, like a lot of other people. I know my family history. I know my tree. If I do not keep myself in check, then it becomes a huge issue. And my wife has had to put me in line and been like, no, you're done. You're done. If you can't handle it, you're out. Done. And so these are coping mechanisms where this is why my creativity and my content and why I try to find different ways. Because if I don't, I know what I'm going to become, and I don't want to be that person.
I honestly think this is where each individual needs to pay very close attention to the advice they give out. And every time I'm counseling another man or I'm counseling anybody, whether it's somebody that I'm trying to re-educate or work within our faith practice, what's worked for me may not necessarily work for you. Right. So for a lot of people, hey, I can't touch alcohol. I can't do that. But for me, what's worked best for me is, I keep drinking. I just force myself to a stopping point. So what works for me isn't always going to work for somebody else. And I try to tell everybody, look, this is your path to choose. You have to figure out what you're going to walk with. I mean, if you have something that can completely and totally eliminate your urge, then do that, whether it's going to a gym, whatever. But for me, it's just easier for me to make peace with the demons inside than try to kill them off. Because I know they're always going to be there. They're never really going to go away. The one demon that I actively try to keep in a cage, in a box, in a safe, under the bed, like locked down like Fort Knox, is my rage. Because I know that's the one demon I have that if I let go of and I let him turn loose, I'm not going to be able to put him back. I'm addicted to. That's the one thing I'm addicted to. I'm addicted to rage. I'm addicted to fighting. I'm addicted to pain.
Absolutely.
So I actively try my best to not let him out.
So one of the things, like through my journey, like, I've done a lot of work with the 12-step programs, like, and I've done a lot of work, like working with therapists and seeing professionals and things like that, and this inner journey. So like one of the things that I have learned is that like, I'm not going to get, like you said, Rooster, like I'm not getting rid of these demons. They're going to be there. But, there's that story of the Native American grandfather who talks, to his grandson and says, there's two wolves inside of you. One is evil and one is ugly, and one wants nothing but destruction, and the other one is beautiful and wants to help people and wants to be this amazing member of the tribe. And the grandson says, well, which one do I go with? And the grandfather says, whichever one you feed. And like, so like if I'm doing things to get rid of these bad habits and these bad coping mechanisms, because I'm learning neuroplasticity. I'm learning how to rewire my brain. Like
that's a big part in fighting.
Right. Once I start learning how to think a different thing, like I have issues with rage, so I go to the gym. That helps me get it out of it. Like I'll spar with people. I'll do martial arts. That helps me get out of it. Like drinking and alcohol and drugs for me is an issue. So I go to 12-step programs. That's my own personal choice. But I've also learned like one of the things too that keeps me really grounded, and I've learned to do. And it took a while, man. It took a while for me to learn this. And like we talk about it in the path. We talk about it in the rooms, and we talk about like this ego death. And when we talk about ego death, like, I'm a good looking dude. That's not ego. That's a fucking fact. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like I'm funny. That's a fact. I'm smart. That's a fact. That's not my ego. Like if I'm saying something and I back it up, that's not ego. That's confidence.
But did you realize it before you got on any social media and started developing this man you are today?
Bro, how do you think I got high for so long? I charmed drug dealers right out of 40 bags every morning, dog. Like,
so Savage, like knowing that, and it is a big thing, right? That's huge. Is being able to have this. There's a difference between confidence and ego.
Right. And so this ego death. Wait. So let me finish that thought, Cyber. Let me finish that thought, Cyber. So ego death to me, and what I've been explained to it is, right, and how I look at it, is ego death is just my judgment of others. So like if I'm in a room full of drug addicts and alcoholics, they're talking about like their problems and they're talking about things that they did, I could sit there and be like, oh, it was never that bad. I didn't do that. Like, I didn't sell my body. I didn't do these things. I didn't do some of the things that I've heard some of these people share. Or I could sit there and say, hey, I have a disease just like everybody else that's in this room. And I can remember being desperate enough to actually have the thoughts of doing that.
Yeah.
And now I'm no longer better than anybody. I'm no longer worse than anybody. I'm just on that same level playing field. Like, I've heard this explained, and I hate to bring the Bible into it, but it's probably the funniest fucking explanation of ego that I've ever heard. So, like, the biblical story of the Garden of Eden, like, was the apple the fruit of knowledge, or was it the fruit of judgment? Like, did the place really change over the night, or did Adam and Eve's fucking view of it change? Like, did they like, oh, this place is perfect today? They eat the apple, they're like, oh, this place sucks. You know, so like, it's the way you look at something. It's the way, like, I always do like gratitude exercises. And when I do gratitude exercises, I find a way to be grateful for things that irritate me. So, like, you know, my phone, I dropped my phone and I can't even use my front forward facing camera anymore because there's a huge crack through the glass. So, like, I'm making TikToks with a GoPro. I'm just grateful that I had the GoPro and I have the software to edit, and they're actually coming out better than they used to.
Yeah.
You know, so by changing that.
I got a split, guys. I got a kid thing.
All right, Tiger.
Tiger, always great to see you, brother.
Hey, we're going to see each other again.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of Walk With Me, or listening to it if you're on audio podcast. Men's mental health awareness is something that is very important, and as such, I had to break this into 2 episodes. You will get the rest of the episode next week. But I stress, the stories you have heard and the stories you will hear are not for the light of heart. The language can be explicit, but the pain is real. The issues we face and the ways we deal with them are all real. So, once again, thank you for listening to this week's episode. And next week, we'll be back with another one. For now, this has been Walk With Me, a Cyber Warrior Studios production. And as always, I'm your host on this journey, the Cyber Warrior.